Hey, Christ family. Welcome back to the channel. All right, so we're going to get started because we have a lot to read. We are still in chapter 100 of this Holy Godspell from the Holy Megillah Nasarean Bible of the Essene Way. We got Yahshua in his etheric resurrection body, not a flesh zombie, but we're not going to talk about that right now. We just want to talk about this beautiful woman here. Her name is Magzerah. She is Apollos' mother. Just imagine that. Now, listen to what Yahshua said, because her son is an apostle. He's the 12th apostle, and then she was initiated as the next. So I got a lot to say about these people, man. They are so special. I would love to talk a little bit about this order of the Immaculate Conception and what the differences are, but we don't have time for that. So, but I would like to say that all of these apostles that we've read about so far are of that inner circle, that traveling, that they're called the trusted travel companions of the Lord and the Lady. And let me tell you, it means that they travel on many, many worlds. This is not the only time they've been together. And this is also why I wanted to portray with this AI art the energy and the laughter and the joy and the success that would have been present during this time because, man, a lot of these souls, they're very old souls, okay? And so this is mission accomplished for them, right? So let's just get to reading and then I'll interrupt here and there. And we'll talk more about it as we go. So, verse 111, Magzerah, the prophetess, the mother of Apollos, was the first disciple added to Miriam's 7 and Yahshua's 12 after they merged their ministries. When Yahshua appeared to Magzerah after the crucifixion, the Lord said, Venerable Magzerah, I was blessed to have studied with you when I was a student in Alexandria. I wish for others to again have that blessing. I request that you return to the faculty at the Mother Temple, but also that you write a prophecy for those of the era called the last days. I name you my apostle of positive prophecy. Magzara replied, I see that you remember the name of the course you took from me, positive prophecy. I accept both your requests and I will return to the faculty and I will write a positive prophecy for the era of the last days. You guys want to hear one of her prophecies? We got to jump back to chapter 68. It says that Magzerah is the 20th member of the companions of the Lord and Lady, right? So Nabiya says to Magzerah, my dear spiritual sister, I have for you a question. Would you please speak a prophecy to be included in the Holy Megillah, Nasarean Bible of the Essene Way? What I foresee for you, Magzerah, is nothing but the best. And in verse 218, it's chapter 68, Magzerah replied, Behold, you foresee for me exactly what I foresee for you, nothing but the best for you. In regards to your question, yes, I will speak a prophecy right now. So let the quill take note. The following prophecy is a foreseeing and is addressed to every Nasarean that reads these words in every generation. I foresee nothing but the best for you. Amen. Yes, positive prophecy. Isn't that something? So that was the course that she taught in the Mother Temple when Yahshua was young. And so that's the thing, man. This order of Immaculate Conception is completely different than what we were told. It has nothing to do with a virgin birth. And I'll just say this to keep it short. There were 7 campuses, and it took 7 generations of purification for the Lord and the Lady to be able to incarnate here. And during that, all of that purification, there were many highly advanced souls that were coming through to do this messianic work. And Magzara, Peh-ree, and Negoha, they're very old souls, and they've been around the block, like I said, a few times, okay? All right, so before we go any further, I want to talk a little bit about this Heyoka. Yes, because the more I read about Negoha and Peh-ree, I see that this Heyoka is very similar. Now, a lot of people think that this Heyoka is a medicine man or a shaman, but in the Lakota and the Dakota people, Sioux culture, the Heyoka is spelled Ha-oka, like Heyoka, and it is a type of sacred clown, right? And it says the Heyoka is a contrarian gesture and satirist or satire who speaks, moves, and reacts in an opposite fashion to the people around them. Only those having visions of the thunder beings of the West, the Wakinyan, and who are recognized as such by the community can take on the ceremonial role of the Heyoka. All right. So not everybody is a Heyoka. Says a little bit more down here that they ask difficult questions and say things that others are too afraid to say. Their behavior poses questions, as do Zen koans. It says a story, a dialogue, a question, okay, or a statement. By reading between the lines, the audience is able to think about things not usually thought about, or to look at things differently. Okay, right here is where it made me think about Nagoa. Principally, the Heyoka functions as a mirror and a teacher, and that's Nagoa Hashikaina, the mirror of Nagoa Hashikaina, and that's Peh-ree, the Maggid. Maggid means teacher. He is the teacher of teachers. All right, and so the Heyoka uses extreme behaviors to mirror others and forcing them to examine their own doubts, fears, hatreds, and weaknesses. Heyokas have the power to heal emotional pain. They provoke laughter in distressing situations of despair and provoke fear and chaos when people feel complacent and overly secure, to keep them from taking themselves too seriously or believing they are more powerful than they are. In addition, sacred clowns serve as an important role in shaping tribal codes. Unbound by social constraints, Heyokas are able to violate cultural taboos freely and thus critique established customs. We need these people. We need more Heyokas. Now with that being said, let's go read what Yahshua said to Nagoha and to Peh-ree, because they are very powerful and they do possess supernatural abilities. Very interesting, right? So let's go. And so here she is, my rendition of Nagoa Hashikaina. Sometimes I like to say Shekinah. Yeah, this one came out pretty nice. And it still has a couple errors, but this is my rendition. And it reads in verse 119 on page 1012, when Yahshua appeared to Nagoha HaShekinah, the eldest and funniest of the female disciples of the Lord and Lady, he said, I name you Queen Apostle of good-natured humor. I ask that you compose another joke to be included in the new edition of the Holy Megillah. Nagoa replied by simply chuckling. Good-natured, of course. as had already been communicated to Nagoa, her scroll, titled I Spokleria, would also be included in the Megillah. That text includes a description of the Nasarean oracle called Quashah. Yahshua also gave her many assignments. For behold, she and Peh-ree would soon be joining Yahshua in El Cush and beyond, and certain things in this world must first be accomplished. Yes, trusted travel companion, you heard it, this world and beyond, El Cush and beyond. Yes, these are very special old souls. Before we go to the next Peh-ree, I want to read to you in the Megillah about his name and what Yahshua told him. So here on page 580 in chapter 43 of the Holy Godspell, it says that the Nasarean Hebrew name Peh-ree means fruit and is pronounced Peh-ree. Etz Chaim means the tree of life and was an honorary title given to Peh-ree, playing off his first name, fruit. And so we know Maggid, that's the Nasarean word for teacher, and it means to tell. And it says that in the case of Peh-ree, Etz Chaim, wow, so that's the way you say his whole name, Peh-ree Etz Chaim. He is the fruit of the tree of life. It says that the term is being used in a special way, the Maggid term, as a beloved and venerable eldest teacher of teachers. And even Rose the Yaiyrah had been taught by Peh-ree as a young woman and referred to him as teacher. So if you're new here and you don't know who Rose is, Rose the Yaiyrah is the grandmother of Yahshua on his dad's side. And so Peh-ree is pretty old in the Holy Megillah at this point. He's 100 years old. And this is what Yahshua was telling him in this other portion of the Megillah. This is chapter 46. This is right after the wedding of the Lord and the Lady, I think. And everybody's sitting around. And Peh-ree had said to Yahshua, I wish for time, I can't read it all, but you guys should check this out. This is on page 607, where Yahshua said, Peh-ree, although the souls of Jahdeel and Janah indeed predate you, your soul is quite ancient. You came forth as the first spark of the dance of the Lord and Lady. Did you guys hear that? Peh-ree is the first spark of the dance of the Lord and Lady. And he said, that is our name for you, first spark. And like I said, Peh-ree was about 100 years old, and it says that he had only recently begun to remember his deepest identity as the first spark of the dance of the Lord and Lady. And it says the words of Yahshua were confirmation of Peh-ree's awakening memories. Yahshua says, be not surprised that the first spark of our dance only now begins to remember his identity. Wow. And this is a really sweet breakdown. Just going to skip it for time, but you could pause it. He says here, the uniqueness of you, first spark, is that even before the establishment of Madhiba, which is the highest heaven inside of the mother ovum, he said, by the sparks that soon followed your birth, you, Peh-ree, followed us, Lord and Lady, rather than reside in any one heavenly abode. This was not planned, it just happened. Where we went, you followed. Like us, you maintained a presence. Like us, you maintain a presence in countless worlds simultaneously. Whoa. Yeah, I told you, Yahshua is dropping some knowledge here. He says to Peh-ree, you, Peh-ree, came to this world before the birth of the Lord and Lady to prepare our green wizards for our coming. And you have done well. It says, after this revelation by Yahshua on the identity of Peh-ree, the assembly sat in sacred silence. Yeah, man. Then Miriam said, feel the magic in this moment, because all those people had realized, even all the way to the Yaiyrah, that they had been taught by someone, by a soul who is like the Lord and Lady's companion from the very beginning. Wow. 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 Very first companion. That's who he was, man. He's the very first companion. Man. Yeah, you were taught by the very first companion of the Lord and Lady. Wow. Man. All right. So we're going to get over and read what the Lord said to Peh-ree. And like I said, these are very old souls. So now you know for yourself. Ta-da! Here he is, Peh-ree, the Maggid, teacher of teachers, also known as First Spark by the Lord and Lady themselves. That's pretty interesting, right? To know and that's how old he is. That's why Nagoa is always saying, compared to you, Peh-ree, I'm a spring chick. Well, all right, let's get back to chapter 100 now. So it says in verse 126, when Yahshua appeared to Peh-ree, the Maggid, the eldest and funniest of all the male disciples, the Lord said, Peh-ree, I name you King Apostle of good-natured humor. I ask that you compose another joke to be included in the new edition of the Holy Megillah. It says in verse 128, as with his partner in comedy, Negoha, the Lord also gave Peh-ree certain secret assignments, yea, and gave him also a handful of hemp seed, because Peh-ree and Negoha have the ability to shapeshift, okay? And it's into birds. That's why they were really into hemp seeds. And so instead of reading anymore, because we still have 7 disciples left, maybe even more, I just counted really quick, but we're going to jump over and read a conversation between Peh-ree and Negoha about shape shifting, okay? So that'll be my little treat, because these people are very special, like I told you. And it says because of their ability to shapeshift, they saved the lives of the Lord and Lady and the companions a few times. And so we'll read about one of those times right now. So that's here in this chapter 46 of the Holy Godspell. It's on page 613. It says that that night, after all the questions had been asked and the fire was but coals, Peh-ree, the Maggid, walked the perimeter of Gan Shalom, taking his turn as a lion on night duty. Behold, Peh-ree watched a night owl perch on a branch in front of him. Then the night owl became the human form of Negoha Hashekina. Peh-ree, astonished because he had never met another shapeshifter, said, you did not let on that you too can become a bird. Negoa replied, at that time I asked you to speak on the topic of shapeshifting. I never had. Behold, after the circle by the fire, I felt a negative entity sneak up on the perimeter of the camp. As I investigated, a dark night owl, the source of the negative vibration, flew from a tree, and I found myself following it in the form of an owl. It was like you said, it happened naturally because it was needed in the moment. It was not the result of intentional conjuring. Uh, I focused my awareness on following the dark owl without it noticing. The dark owl did not know that I was following, and I followed it to a carriage of a rich man staying at an inn in Canaan village. She said, I sensed the evil of the rich man and perceived that he was searching for the Lord and Lady on behalf of demonic entities that he serves as a spy. He is accompanied by several Roman soldiers who are asking questions in Canaan village about possible Nazarene encampments in the vicinity. Without being seen, I have just now returned to tell the Lord and Lady. Peh-ree replied, I wondered why you did not come join me by the fire as I had invited. Maybe we should meet in a bird's nest high in a tree. They both laugh because they're always cracking jokes. And it's just at the weirdest time. That's what makes it funny. Anyway, they do their job well. All right. So, it says they both laughed. How do I know they laughed? Because I, Jahleel, had gone for a walk and was sitting behind a tree near where they conversed. I wondered if they had sensed my presence. Then Peh-ree spoke to me, saying, Young lady, go to bed. So Peh-ree said to Nagoa yesterday, when you saw me shapeshift, I was on a similar mission as the one you performed tonight. Nagoa replied, It is good that we are planning to depart tomorrow morning, and we will warn the residents of Gan Shalom to be weary even after we have departed. Now, verse 411, y'all know about the 411. She says, Now let us report to the Lord and Lady. And so this was one of them times that they got out of Dodge thanks to this ability that these old souls have to shapeshift into birds. So don't go crazy with it, okay? I ain't seen them able to shapeshift into nothing else or read anything else but into birds. All right. So we're gonna leave it there. I got like 7 more disciples, and then we'll be done with this. Stay tuned because I'll be back with that Francis Rollingston real soon. Okay. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Put Peh-ree back up real quick. Haha, the magic. First spark. Ain't that something else? Man, wow. And it wasn't planned that way. Wow. Yeah, because that's that three's a charm. All right, guys. I'll be back soon. Stay tuned.